Welcome to this Linux command line tutorial. I have made this tutorial short and to the point so you can really get started with the Linux terminal in just 40 minutes. And just before we get started, well, this tutorial is actually a free extract of a bigger Linux command line course I made named Practical Linux Command Line. You can check out the link in the description. Also, if you don't know my channel yet, well, as you can guess with the name, I am primarily focused on teaching robotics programming. So if you are learning robotics, I have many more tutorials for you on this channel, don't forget to subscribe. And now let's get started with the Linux command line. I will first show you how to open a terminal and then how to run the most useful commands with hands-on lessons only. You will also understand how the Linux file system works and how to interact with it. And the first step to actually be able to use command line tools on the terminal is to, of course, open the terminal. So I'm going to show you different ways to open the terminal, and some of them here are specific also to Ubuntu. So depending on your operating system, the interface will be different, but at the end you will find the terminal. So first you can click here. You may have stuff like applications like that or activities, okay? And so you click here and you have a search bar and you can just type terminal, okay? Terminal or maybe CMD, okay, or command. It should bring you to the terminal. So you click here and you have opened your terminal. So that's simply a window, okay? That's a window with the terminal inside. If you want to close it, well, you close the window, that's it. Now, and this is a shortcut that is going to work on Ubuntu and maybe not on other operating systems. You can also do Ctrl, Alt, and T. This is going to open a terminal. If you want to close it, Ctrl, Shift, and Q, and you close the terminal. So I'm going to go back here and I'm going to search for terminal. Okay, what you can do now, you can see on the left, so I have a bar with applications. I can right click here, add to favorites. So now when I close it, it's still here, so I can directly start it by clicking on this. And if I want, I can open different windows, okay? I can open as many terminal windows as I want. I'm going to clean up that. I don't need this. I don't need this. I'm just going to keep Firefox, Files, and Terminal here. All right, and in the terminal, so that's also maybe specific to Ubuntu, you can right-click Preferences. Okay, if you want to change some options and maybe the size. So I'm going to put the size here for me to 16. Okay, select. Okay, so that will be more readable for you when I type commands for the course. And well, now you are ready to use the terminal. Let's start right away to use the terminal and not waste any time. So open the terminal, okay? So in the terminal, the first thing you can see here is that, so on Ubuntu I have this which is in green. You have the username you have chosen here, which is ed for me, and then @ and then the host name or the machine name, so which is ed-vm for me. So that's the first thing you are going to see, and then you are going to see something in blue. I'm going to come back to that, and then the $, and then you can type some command here. Now I'm going to open a file manager on the side, okay? So if you don't have this, you just go here, you can just type files, and you are going to find a file manager, okay? So I have my file manager here. And by default, you have a home directory, okay? A home directory for your user, so for the user ed. And in that directory, you can see I have documents, downloads, music, etc. Now, the first command we are going to use in the terminal is the command ls. So you just type ls like this, and this is going to list all the files and folder where you are currently in the terminal. Okay, so you type ls and press enter, and you can see, well, that's the same thing. Desktop, document, download, music, etc. Okay, we have the exact same thing. And this is because in the terminal, it's just like you are browsing your file manager, but with just a different view, okay? Here you have a window and you can see folders, images, okay, for the folders. Here you just have, well, you just type ls and you have the list of all folders and files in the directory you are currently in. So that's the same thing. If I create here a new folder, for example, let's say my folder, don't put any space, okay, in the folder name, create, now I do here ls again, you can see I have my folder, okay, so this and this is the same. Okay, so ls, with ls you can list all files in the current directory. Now if you want to know exactly where you are in the current directory, you can use the command pwd, which is printing the working directory. You press enter and you can see we are currently in /home/head. Okay, I'm going to come back to that a bit later. And well, if you go here, so you have home, but if you press, so you click on the file manager and you can do Ctrl L, so this is specific to Ubuntu here, and you can see the real path. The real path is /home/head. This is the same, okay? So now that you have seen that basically working in the terminal with file and folder is the same as working in the file manager, now the only thing that is missing, well, so we can list files, we can see where we are, and now what is missing is, well, how can we navigate between different folders, okay? If you want to go to the documents folder in the file manager, well, you double click on this and you are in the document folder. If you want to go to the document folder from the terminal, you are going to use the command cd. So you use cd, and not only cd, but then you are going to provide the name of the folder you want. So documents. You press enter, and now you are in documents. You can see the blue stuff here has changed to ~/document. Okay, tilde actually means home directory. So /document, you are in the same folder as here. And then you can do ls, and now when you do ls, well, you have nothing. Why is that? Because, well, there is nothing in that folder. The folder is empty. I'm going to create a new folder here. Let's say test. Okay, now I do ls and I can see test. I can do cd test and I am now in the test directory. If I do pwd, I can see I am in /home/head/documents/test, okay, which is the same as here in the text. Now with cd, so you can go forward, okay, you just need to give the name of the folder. You can also go backward. You just need to do ... So cd ... is going to go back one folder. So now you are in document. cd ... and you are back to your home directory. And now if you want to go back to the test folder, instead of doing cd documents and then cd test, you can do directly cd documents/tests. And in just one command, you are in the test folder. If you go back to home here, you need to first go to document and then test. So you have two steps. Here you just have one step. Okay, and now from there, let's say I want to go to my downloads folder. Well, the download is in the home directory, so I can do cd ... So ... will go back to document, another ... will go back to home, /downloads, and I am in my downloads directory. So go back here, downloads. 3 steps in just one command. And lastly, if you just want to go back to your home directory, so to the home, from anywhere, you just type cd without any parameter. cd, and boom, you are in your home directory again. Alright, and in the next lessons, I'm going to show you the different folders and how the file system is structured, and also give you more information about that specific home folder. Now that you have used the terminal a bit, and you have seen the basics of navigation and 3 commands, I'm going to give you some super useful tips you can start to use right now. And those tips will make your life much easier. So first of all, when you are in the terminal, and if you just want to get rid of everything and get a fresh view of the terminal, you can use the command clear, like this. Clear, enter, and you just empty everything that was on the terminal. So that's very useful when you want to have a clear interface. Then, and that is the most important tip, is you can use auto-completion. So what do I mean by auto-completion? I'm going to do ls, okay, to list the files and folders. And now let's say I want to go to my folder. So I can do cd my folder, okay, and I'm in my folder. I'm going to go back with cd to go back to the home directory. Now if I do cd m and I press tab, you can see when I press tab, I directly have my folder, which is automatically completed. And this is super useful. You're going to use tab all the time. So for any folder, any file, any command, so anything in the terminal, you can just type the beginning of the word and then tab, and it's going to autocomplete it if there is one possibility. Okay. Now let's say I do cd d and then so d uppercase and then tab. Well, if I do tab, there is nothing. If I now do tab twice, you can see that I have a list of suggestions. Okay. Why is that? Because, well, simply with D uppercase here, it's not possible for the terminal to know what I want to do, because we have 3 folders starting with D: desktop, downloads, documents. Okay, you can see them here. So I need to provide a bit more information. Let's say I put O and I press tab again, nothing happens. So I press tab twice and I have documents download, because now with DO I have documents and downloads who starts with the same letters. So if I want to go to downloads, for example, I'm going to put DOW tab and I have downloads. Okay, I go back, I can put C doc tab documents. And now if I press tab once more, you can see I have test. Okay, why is that? Because simply in the documents folder, for now, we just have one folder test. So there is just one possible option. And if there is just one possible option, that's the one that will be kept with the autocompletion. So you can see it's very fast. If I want to go to document text, I do cd doc tab, enter. If I want to go from there to downloads, I can do cd // dow tab, and that's it. So I'm going to use autocompletion a lot in this course, and I encourage you to do the same. Whenever you type some comments, just type the beginning and just try to use tab, and this will save you so much time. And one more thing is you can use the history. So when you write some comments, they are going to be saved in history. So you can use the up and down arrow keys. So if I use up keys, you can see I have the comment I have just run before. If I use up again, you can see cd document text. Up again, I have the cd that I have used here. Okay, and then once more cd my folder, once more ls. Okay, I use the bottom arrow. Okay, I can go back and I can just browse the different options that I had. So let's say from the document, so let's say from the downloads, I'm going back. So I do cd // doc tab to go to the test. Now let's say I want to go back to downloads. What I can do is directly press the up arrow twice. To go back to this command, I press enter. Okay, if I want to go back to the test folder, I press twice, enter. And if you want to have the list of all commands, you type history, enter, and you can see all the history of all the commands you have written. All right, and now let's say I want a clear interface. I do clear again, and I'm still in my tests folder, but with nothing on the screen. So to recap, you have seen here the clear command, you have seen the autocompletion and how to use the history. Those commands are going to make your life much easier when using the terminal. As for now, we have stayed in the home directory of your user. So for me, that's the user head. Okay, so to go to the home directory, once again, you can do just cd and you are in the home directory with tilde. Okay, in the file manager, that's the same. And now let's do cd/. If you do cd/, you see that you now have a slash here. And once you do ls, you have a completely different set of files and folders. And on the file manager, well, so here on Ubuntu, I do Control L. Okay, I have /home/head. I'm going to remove that and just go to slash. And once more, you can see that this is exactly the same. You have the same names here, same folders as in the file manager. And this is actually, so this is named computer in the file manager. And this is, well, the root of your file system. So on Linux, by default, you have just one partition. Okay, the partition starts, so the path will start with a single slash like this. That's it. And then everything will be under that slash. It's not like on Windows. On Windows, you can have different partitions. For example, you are familiar with the C partition, you can have a D, E, etc. And so each partition on Windows C, D, etc. will be completely separated. Here on Linux, everything starts not with a letter, just with a slash, and then you have many different files and folders. Everything is here, you have nothing behind the slash, okay? This is the starting point of your file system. Now, well, you can see we have quite a few folders here and files, and well, you don't need to know the meaning of each folder to really get started with the terminal and the command lines. I'm just going to give you a very quick overview here. So, for example, you have a boot folder. Here you can see the boot folder. So this is where you can find stuff needed when the Linux operating system boots, okay? On the dev folder, which is here you are going to find the devices you can use. For example, if you connect a USB key or a mouse, so the device will be listed here, okay? If you do cd dev, okay, ls, you can see a lot of stuff. So you don't need to worry about that now. I'm going to do cd ... to go back to the root. Okay, so on the root, actually on the root directory, you have the home directory for the root user. Okay, we are going to see more about the root user later in the course, okay? So don't mix the root here of the file system and the root user, which is basically the administrator for the machine. And then on the user, so here USR for user, you have programs, libraries, etc. that can be used by users on the operating system. Okay, if you go on /user, okay, ls, you can see we have, for example, bin, and in bin you can find many of the commands that you are using, for example, pwd, etc. And then on the /opt, you can find some extra software, okay, from third-party vendors, for example. And well, you have many other folders, but I'm not going to list and tell the functionalities for everyone. You really don't need actually to know that to get started with Linux and the command line. As an analogy for that, let's say you are learning a new language different from English, and the first thing your teacher gives you is a list of all the names for all kinds of shoes you can find in a shoe store. Well, that's not as useful as learning how to introduce yourself and ask directions in the city, for example. So that's the same thing here. Understanding what the file system is, starting with a slash, okay, this is the root of the file system. Then you have a bunch of folders and files for different purposes, okay, for system purposes, for user purposes, to install software, etc. And when the time comes, you will be able to get to know more about each directory, okay, one by one, when you actually need to use them. Out of all the directories we have here at the root of our file system, there is one which is super important and that you are going to use a lot, not only for this course, but for anything you will do with Linux. And this is the home directory, which we actually already used before. So if you go in home, you can find a directory here with your username, so add for me. If you have different users, you're going to find different folders here, one for each user. And if you go to add, well, you just go back to the home directory we had previously, okay? So we are going to do the same thing in the terminal. So I'm going to clear, I'm going to do cd / okay, ls. You can see we have the home, and in the home we have add, okay? I do add, and then I'm back to my home directory. And as you can see, instead of putting /home/add, here it's going to put tilde, which is the exact same thing, pwd /home/add. So now you know where does this come from. From the root of the file system, you have a home directory. Inside the home directory, you have a directory for each user. And then once you are connected as a user, so I'm the user add right now, I go to my add directory, and this is my home directory where I can see a tilde, and this is where I'm going to work most of the time. So all the files you are going to write and modify, all the configurations which are specific not to the system but to the user add, are going to be in that home directory. Okay, it's kind of similar to the Windows home directory. If you know a bit about Windows, you have, for example, a users directory, and then, for example, if your user is add, then you have add. In add, you also have a download, document, music, pictures folder, etc. So that's kind of similar. And you usually put all your files in Windows in your also home directory. And so to go back to your home directory at any point, I have already showed you, you can use the command cd. So if I am in slash, okay, if I am anywhere, I can just use cd and I am going back to my home directory. So that's very useful. There are actually two ways to represent the path to go somewhere in a folder or a file, the absolute path or the relative path, okay? And for now, we have mostly used the relative path. So relative is simply where is a folder relative to where we are right now. So if you are in your home directory, you want to go to downloads, you do cd downloads. Okay, from there, if you want to go to documents, you have to do cd /documents. So this is relative to where you are when you execute the command. Okay, if I do cd documents, so I use the up key. If I do cd downloads, I press enter. Well, no such file or directory, because now I'm in documents, I'm not in home directory. Okay, so the relative path only works from one specific place. Now, if you want to be able to get the correct path from everywhere, you need to use the absolute path. And the absolute path is actually by using cd/. So you are going to start from the root of the file system. If you want to go to downloads, you are going to do cd/home/ the name of your user /download. And you can use the auto-completion here. Okay, and this is going to go to downloads, and it doesn't matter where you are when you execute this command, it's going to go to downloads anytime, okay? And you can see here, actually, if you type pwd, we have the exact path. So you have the absolute path for one folder. So let's say, for example, I want to go to cd/. So I can press tab twice to see the list of options, user/bin. I am in user/bin, and now I want to go back to my downloads folder from my home repository. I just go back to cd home add downloads, and I'm in downloads. And I go back again in user bin. So very useful to use the absolute path in that situation. And one thing you can do is, instead of /home/add, as you could see, we have a tilde. So you can use the tilde. If I do cd tilde-downloads, tilde will be replaced by /home/add. So you can just write tilde if you want to. And here I am back to my downloads folder. So this command and this command is the exact same command. Okay, so now just as a quick exercise, what you can do is, from that download folder, you can try to go to, so I'm going to use the file manager here. You have a documents folder and you have a test folder. So I challenge you to find as many ways as possible to go from the downloads folder to the test folder of the documents folder, okay? So you can pause the video, and once you have tried different ways, come back to the video, and I'm going to show you now different ways to navigate. So first I'm going to clear. Okay, we are in the downloads and we want to go to the test folder. What I can do first, I can do cd ... to go back to the home directory, cd document, cd test with auto-completion, and I'm in the test folder. I'm going to go back to downloads. What I can also do is, instead of cd ... I can use cd directly and then go to documents, maybe use the auto-completion test. Okay, so sometimes in real life that's quite practical to not give just one command, but just to do cd very fast. You are in the home directory, and then cd, and then use the auto-completion to go fast into where you want to go. I often use this combination. So let's go back again to downloads. You can also do cd ... document test. Great. Let's go back to downloads. If you want to use the absolute path, you can do cd/home. You can see h tab, and then tab again, because you just have one user here. Document test. Great. I'm going back to downloads, or you can do cd tilde/doc tab, and you are back to document/test. Okay, so here you can see, well, you have multiple options whenever you want to go somewhere. You can use the absolute path with just one command, or you can use the relative path. And if you use relative path, you can also split the commands between different commands. Sometimes it's faster. So just depends on where you are, where you want to go. With practice, you're gonna be better at this and choose the best option to go faster. And one more thing I want to show you before wrapping up this section is that, well, there are actually many more files that you can see on the terminal and on the file manager, okay? And those are hidden files. So I'm going to go back to my home directory with just cd and do clear. So if I do ls, I see I have those folders here. I go home, here I have those folders. Now, if I do ls and I add -a, okay, so whenever you have a command, you can also add some arguments to the command. And to add arguments, you are going to use dash, and then you're going to use some letters. Okay, so A means all. So ls-a is going to list all the files and folders in that directory, including the hidden files. And as you can see, we have actually quite a lot. So the folders here are in blue, okay? The files are in white, okay? Doesn't matter whether it's hidden or not hidden files, okay? You are going to see blue and white in Ubuntu. And then you can see we have a dot. So some of the files and folder start with a dot. And this means that those are going to be hidden files that you are not going to see just with ls or with the file manager. You need to do ls-a. And actually in the file manager, you can also find here show hidden files. And boom, you have all the hidden files, which are exactly the same as you see here on the terminal. And now, are those files and folders any special? Well, actually no, those are just standard files and folders. Just that they are hidden because you put a dot in front of the file, and that's it. The way you are going to use those folders and those files is the same as the way you are going to use any other folder or files. So for example, you can do in cd dot local, so you press L and then tab, and you are in your home directory /.local. Okay, ls cd share, so you can continue to go inside that folder, and maybe you can explore the different folders you can see here. Great, you now have a global overview of the Linux file system. You also have made your first steps with the terminal, and you can navigate in the file system using 3 simple commands. So navigating and seeing what files and folders you have is cool, but now how can you actually create files and folders? How can you see what's inside a file? And how can you modify a file? That's what we are going to see in the next few lessons. So files are super important. Why is that? Well, all the configurations, all the code, all the programs, everything in Linux is a file. A folder is a specific type of file which goal is to contain other files. You can have different files for different purposes, and as you could see before, you also have hidden files. So I'm going to repeat it here because it's very important. In Linux, everything is a file. So let's start with this lesson where you will learn how to create and manage files. Note that here we are going to work in your home directory, so you can do a cd to go back to your home directory, because that's mainly where you are going to create files in the future. And so the first command you are going to learn to create a file is the command touch. So you use touch and then the name of the file you want. So I'm going to name it test file like this. And I press enter, and now you can see ls, I have test file in white here. If I go to my file manager in my home directory, I have the test file, okay? So I think now you understand the relation between the terminal, so what you see on the terminal and what you see on the file manager. This is the same thing. So I'm going to close that and continue with the terminal. Now just a few rules and best practices for the name of the file, okay? You have seen I have used a dash here. I have used underscore for this folder, so I can use a dash or underscore to separate words. Dash or underscore is fine. But what is not fine is to use spaces to separate words in a file name. This is quite common on Windows, but actually that's a very bad practice to do, especially here on Linux. And for example, if you just want to do, for example, touch test file like this, what you're going to do is you're not going to create a new test file with that name. You're going to create two new files, the file test and the file. Okay, so remember, when you create a file and you have multiple words, separate them with a dash or an underscore. Now, well, so you have the touch command to create a file, or you can see you can create multiple files. Okay, you just use touch, file number 1, file number 2, file number 3, etc., separated by a space. Now, if you want to remove a file, so that's the opposite command. If you want to remove a file, you have the command rm and the name of the file. So if I want to remove the file named test, I do rm test. I press enter, ls, the file is gone. You can see the file test is gone. And you can remove multiple files at the same time. You can do rm, for example, file. I can use the autocompletion. So rmf, which is going to do file, and then t, tab. I'm going to remove the file named file and the file named test file. I press enter and you can see everything is gone. So you have touch to create a file, rm to remove a file. Now I'm going to show you something, is that if you don't know exactly how to use a command, or if you need more documentation, or you want to see more options of what you can use, you can actually use the command man, which is the command manual. So you use man and then the name of the command you want. So man rm, for example, you press enter, and you're going to get to a page like this. You can see name, rm, remove files or directories, okay? And so you can scroll with the mouse or also with the keys of your keyboard. So you have a name, a description, you can see the different options you can use. We are going to come back to that later, okay? And if you want to quit the help, you can see here, you can press the Q key of your keyboard, just press the Q and you are out of the manual. So you can use this with any command you want. Now I'm going to create the file again, so touch test. I'm going to use an underscore here, touch test file, and the test file is here. One very important thing also is that you can see I don't have an extension here. So if you want a file which is going to contain some text, you are going usually, for example on Windows, to add the .txt extension. So I could do touch test file.txt, okay, which is going to create a .txt file. But on Linux, well, it doesn't really matter. So sometimes for some applications, you are going to need to put a specific extension. For example, if you want to create a Python file, okay, we are not going to see that, but if you want to create a Python file, you are going to use a specific extension. But basically, you have to know that a file without an extension is completely 100% valid. Now, what if you want, I'm going to clear the screen and I'm going to do ls again. What if you want to move a file somewhere else? Or what if you want to rename a file? So I have my test file. Let's say I want to put my test file into my folder. What I can do is I can use the mv command. So I use mv and I need to provide two arguments here. First is the file I want to move. So this is test file. And then where I want to put it, my folder. And I use the autocompletion here. So I want to move the test file inside my folder. I press enter, test file is gone. I go to my folder, ls, I can see the test file is here. Now what I can also do when I move the file is I can rename the file. Or I can just rename the file without moving it. So I use move again with test file. And what I can do is I just give it a different name. So let's say different file. So I move the test file to different file. Now if I do ls, you can see the test file is gone. Actually, it was moved to different file. It was actually renamed. Okay. I can put it back to my home directory. So I can do mv different file now. And the thing is that I can also use an absolute path if I want. Okay. I can use /home/add, which is going to go to my home directory, and for example, /document. or I can also use, as you could see before, ~documents. This is going to move this file inside this folder with the absolute path. And let's say I want to also rename it at the same time. I'm going to put it back to test file like this. I press enter. And now if I go to my documents, so I can do directly cd ~documents, ls, I have test file here. So mv to move a file or to rename a file or to do both at the same time. And finally, one command you need is, let's say I want to make a copy of that file, okay? So if I want to make a copy of that file, I use cp for copy. You can do man cp, for example, copy files and directories. And you can see here the description, it's going to copy the source to the destination, okay? And you have cp, so you can use different options, and then you need to provide the source and the destination. So I'm going to do cp. What is the source? The source is test file. The destination is, let's say, another file. This is going to copy this into this. I press enter, ls, I have now another file which is an exact copy of the test file here. And of course, I can decide to do, for example, cp test file. If I want to put a copy but directly put it inside my home directory, I can, for example, do --dash yet another file. And I press enter, and now if I go back to my home directory, ls, I have yet another file here, which is the copy of the test file from the documents folder. All right, and now let's clean a bit. I'm going to remove the other file here and yet another file. So I can do rm. So I am in my home directory, so I can do yet another file, and I can do document another file. This is going to remove both files. So now ls, I go to document, and the file, both files are gone. Okay, so now you can create files, you can remove them, you can move them, rename them, and copy them. So basically you have all the tools you need to manage files in the terminal. Working with directories is very similar to working with files, just with a few differences in the commands we are going to use. So we are still in the home directory. I have those files and folders. Now, if I want to create a new directory, I'm not going to use touch, I'm going to use mkdir. So make directory, basically. And then provide the name of the directory. Let's say dir1. ls, I have a new directory, dir1. And now I can go inside that directory. All right, pwd/home/head/dir1. I'm going to go back. If I want to remove that directory, so let's try rm dir1. And you can see it's not working. What you need to do is to do rm-r. So this is basically the recursive option for dir1. So if you want to remove a directory, rm-r. And this is going to remove dir1. Now, what if I want to create multiple directories at the same time, okay? If I want to create dir1 and inside this dir2 and inside this dir3, etc., etc., I'm not going to do mkdir 3 or more times. What I can do is mkdir dir1/dir2/dir3, okay? Now, if I just press this, I'm gonna have an error. Okay, you can't create multiple directories like that. You have to use here -p. Okay, so mkdir-p and then all the directories you want. And then you can see I have dir1. Inside dir1, I have dir2. And then I have dir3. And that's it. And pwd, you can see the complete path. Now I'm going to go back just one directory here. So if I want to move or to rename a directory, well, here the command is exactly the same as for files. I'm going to do mv and then provide the source. So the source is dir3 and then space and then the destination. So let's say I want to move this inside the dir1. So I'm going to do, for example, ... Okay, or I can do ~dir1. If I just do this, the dir3 is going to go inside the dir1. What I can also do is to rename the dir3 at the same time. Let's say dir4. So I press enter, and now so the dir3 is gone. If I go back one directory, I can see now I have dir2 and dir4, which was the dir3 right here, which was now moved and renamed at the same time. All right, so go back to the home directory. If I do rm-r dir1, this is going to, as you can see, remove dir1 and everything inside dir1. So the dir2 and the dir4 are also gone with that. So here, pay attention when you use that command, okay, because, well, you are going to remove the directory and everything inside, okay, so make sure you don't remove files that you want it to keep. And here, well, when you use the rm command, this is going to remove the file, and it's going to be very, very hard to find it back then, okay? So when you remove stuff, make sure that you previously checked what's inside. And well, finally, one more thing is that same as for the file, when you create a name for directory, you are going to use underscores or dashes to separate worlds, okay, if you want to have multiple worlds in your directories. Don't put any space in there. And so now, for example, if I want to create a new folder and a file inside this, so let's say I want to go to my folder, ls, I have nothing, I can create, for example, mkdir, my other folder, and then I can do touch my other folder, my file, and now in my other folder I have one file. So I just create one folder, one file. Alright, that's the end of this tutorial. Actually, this tutorial is just the first part of my course named Practical Linux Command Line, where you have 8 more sections to learn all the Linux terminal fundamentals and many exercises to practice more. Then, if you are currently learning robotics programming, well, check out my other content on this YouTube channel. I also have many courses to program robots using Linux with robot operating system, for example. You can find some links in the description of this video. Alright, thank you for watching and see you in another course or tutorial.